D.C. has banned dancing at weddings, indoor and outdoor. I want you to just think about that for a second. Yes, everybody is making footloose jokes, and I will tell you that I've stayed away from that because I've actually never seen the movie. So I've never seen it. Producer Mark, is it a good movie?
Yes, it's a classic.
Okay. I've never seen Footloose, but I know it's about a town where there's no dancing allowed. That's now our nation's capital. Washington, D.C., banning dancing and standing at weddings, at wedding receptions. Not allowed. 25% capacity or 250 people, they're saying. But standing and dancing at receptions, not allowed. I mean, this is just the problem with empowering bureaucrats and government officials who are leftists, who are authoritarians, is that they always think that they have a better idea. They always think that they should have more power. They never realize that they're not very smart. They lack the humility to understand that they're making that policy decisions are always a series of trade-offs. And so you only should be making decisions in areas where you have a compelling government interest that is clear and where you've really weighed the consequences. But no, they just want to constantly hall monitor everything. They are the unending busybodies of American life. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Don't do that. Do this. Do that. Do this. And it's horrifying, you know. And I'm glad that others have. You know, I've been on the anti-Fauci train I've been like the conductor of it for the last year. Choo-choo, Fauci, you're the worst. I've been telling everybody, here I am, Fauci, I use big words when I'm talking about numbers on TV because then I think that people maybe will think I'm looking at data instead of thinking, what will my friends at the Washington Post editorial page think about my latest guidance about mitigation efforts. However, I'm not the only one who does this guy. What's his name, Mark? He's on TikTok. Tyler something?
Tyler Fisher.
Some guy named Tyler. I just want to give him credit. Here's his version of what it's like to listen to Dr. Fauci off of TikTok. Play it.
I'd say even if you live alone, I would wear a mask in the house, especially in the shower, because frankly, droplets can make the way through the drain and come up through somebody else's toilet, infecting them with COVID through the anus. Ballpark, in 2 to 5 to 20 years, we can start thinking about considering the idea of pondering the thought of conceptualizing the possibility of maybe, perhaps, reopening, but probably not. I would avoid having any fun whatsoever in the near to far future.
That guy's brilliant. I gotta tell you, I would avoid having any fun. I mean, that is pretty much, or human contact, or living your life. There are at least 100 million people in America who have had COVID. And who are at an entirely reasonable risk level. I'm talking about, forget about vaccines. 100 million people have had it, at least. Probably more like 150 million. But we all have to live in fear all the time. We all have to, I was forced to obey all the dumbass restrictions on planes in New York City and restaurants and grocery stores, in my own building, in my own lobby. Still got COVID. And I lasted a year, so it's not like I was being reckless and just trying to get it, right? It took me a year to get it, but I still got it. But the Fauciites have had a faulty logic all along, and it stretches back to 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It was never going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That doesn't make sense for their goal. Their goal was to stop the virus, they said. They pretended that we could prevent mass infection of this pandemic across the country. That was a fantasy. And they didn't weigh out the consequences of what they were going to do to all of us in the meantime. but they got us to comply. The camel's nose in the tent, the beginning, the thin end of the wedge was 2 weeks to flatten the curve for hospital capacity. That seemed reasonable. Did we ever overflow hospital capacity in this country? Never happened. And yet that was the big fear tactic. Remember when they told us that we had to have 1 million ventilators? That was what was actually said by, I think it was Pelosi, Cuomo. 1 million. Those things cost $40,000 or $50,000 a unit. You need a trained staff of ICU nurses, not even just standard nurses. You need ICU trained nurses to run them. And then we found out that putting people on the ventilators too early, which is what they were doing, and not putting them on their stomachs, which they weren't initially doing, led to increased mortality. And that for many people, being put on the ventilators was a death sentence. Thousands and thousands of people. But I understand that was in the early days. Fog of war, challenges, didn't know a lot, people terrified. Okay. Now we've been in this thing for a year. We've seen where they're right, where they're wrong, and they don't accept that they were wrong in any of this. I mean, they have a belief that they've done just a great job. Oh, yeah, no, they've been fantastic on this issue. It's absurd, isn't it? But I want you to be prepared while they're doing stupid things like banning dancing at weddings. So you can be indoors and you can be there for hours at a time, but it's dancing that's the problem. Mayor Bowser got rid of the outdoor mask mandate in D.C. for a day and then switched it back. A town, I think it's Brookline in Massachusetts, which is, it's like a bunch of Hillary and Obama voters all decided to make one town in Massachusetts. It's a wealthy, liberal suburb of Massachusetts. They've decided that even though the state no longer has an outdoor mask mandate because of the CDC guides. I hate the term guides. These are CDC rules. They're rules. Because all these different political tyrants across the country say, oh, the CDC says it, you got to do it. We'll send men with guns. We'll send state police or local police to drag you out of the church because the CDC says so. So let's not pretend that the lab coat tyrants are just sharing advice, just giving us some of their thoughts. No, the CDC's proclamations, because we allowed this, have the force of law, and it's absurd, and it's a nightmare. CDC is full of middling morons. That's right. The people that are making the policy decisions at the CDC, whether it's Walensky or any of the people around her, idiots. Horrible judgment. Maybe knowledgeable about some things, horrible judgment. And knowledge without judgment, it's still very possible to be a dumbass. And I bring you the next phase. You keep thinking, I know a lot of people, and not you, but one keeps thinking, we're just going to wait out their crazy. They can't stay crazy forever. The Fauciites will run out of steam with their lunacy. Wrong. I bring you what I've been telling you all along. Forever COVID. I wrote a post on bucksexton.com, which is one of the reasons why I want you to keep checking in on that site, because I'm writing for it multiple times a week, and I've got a team that's posting news stories every day. Go to bucksexton.com. You can also listen to my podcast there. But I wrote a piece a while ago on get ready for forever COVID, and I got fact-checked. Officially, they banned it on Facebook. They said it was false information. Oh, really? One of the things that I said that they said was false was that wearing a mask outdoors is unreasonable for those at low risk. I should have specified for the vaccinated, but I shouldn't have because it's actually low risk for everybody. And they said that was a fact check. Oh, my judgment can now be fact checked. And now the CDC has admitted that, remember, they're admitting it now because they have to. It's been true all along. It's been stupid. Wearing 2 masks or 1 mask outside has been dumb all along. Not rooted in any realistic, fair-minded interpretation of the numbers. But if you thought this was just going away, I got news for you. It's not. This is the New York Times piece. Reaching herd immunity is unlikely in the U.S. widely circulating coronavirus variants and persistent hesitancy about vaccines will keep the goal out of reach. The virus is here to stay. That's all in this piece. But vaccinating the most vulnerable may be enough to restore normalcy. So they don't want to tell you yet for sure that the COVID authoritarians are never actually just going to recede into the background and want to have control of your life. They're not going to tell you that yet, but they're gearing up for this. They're gearing up for it. The virus is unlikely to go away, said Rustam Antia, the evolutionary biologist at University of Emory in Atlanta. But we want to do all we can to check that it's likely to become a mild infection. The virus is going to be here forever, folks, is what they're telling you. The virus is going to be here forever. So if we continue with this unreasonable mentality that the infections have to be basically zero, or you still have to keep masking, get ready for it. Even if we get out of some masks going on to the summer, come next winter, they're going to say we got to mask up again. And if you say, why? There's so little COVID, that seems to say, well, what about the flu? Flu plus COVID, got to mask up. We've now turned into a masked society. I'm just going to tell you this, I will not live in a state that allows this madness to continue. I will, whatever state I live in, I live in New York now, if they keep doing this, I'm moving. I mean, I want to move as it is, but I'm absolutely fleeing this insanity. These people around New York City, they are nerve-wracked, over-anxious, virtue signaling, CNN worshiping, lib idiots. They're all over the place. They'll believe anything that Dr. Fauci says. And they're so disdainful of those of us who are saying, you should get your life back. We should have normalcy back. Let's go. Let's do this. They're hateful toward those people. Because to accept that they're right now would be to open up the possibility that they've been right for a long time. And what does that mean for all the people that have masks in their Facebook profile photo? Masks as their Twitter avatar. That's embarrassing. You can take a look around journalists. There's so many of them with, I'm wearing a mask in their photo. Why? Because it's a symbol of political allegiance. Because it's a giant opportunity for virtue signaling. Because you're not a Trumper. Oh, okay. Appalling stupidity. And they're so surly and smug about it all, aren't they? They've been wrong all along. They're just not, the maskers, the lockdowners, the Fauciites, just not nearly as clever as they think they are.
Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.